everyone, welcome to Backstory Sessions. I'm your host Matt. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hey everybody, it's Pat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host, Matt. Hey, Matt.
Hey Kat, hey everyone, how are you?
Well, happy birthday. It's finally arrived.
Oh yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hope it's been a great one.
Yeah, it's hasn't been bad, I really didn't do anything too exciting. Just well, what can I tell you? Went grocery shopping and did a little shopping. Had to go buy some stuff and nothing too exciting for sure.
Well, living it up at,
Yeah.
what was it that I said for your age, forever young? So,
Yes. I haven't had cake yet, but I do have tiramisu that I will have later.
yes. Well, I have not had that personally, but I know it's your favorite.
How could you never have had tiramisu?
I don't know. I mean, no one's just like ever said you should have it and presented it to me, I guess.
Hmm.
It's like not something that I've seen on the menu really that I've paid attention to.
Well, if you remember, we went to Olive Garden one time and I actually got it there. You could have had it then.
Well, I was paying more attention to it then because it was your birthday, but
Right, that was a couple of years ago.
I know. Well, again, I do have it on the list of things to sample in this year. And, we've got the dinner theater coming up. So
Oh, that's right. Aren't we doing an interview with some of the people from there?
we are. So everybody's going to get to meet some of the cast and, the owner of the Pennington where we're making the debut. And who knows, tiramisu may be on the dessert menu. I mean, I'm
So,
not in charge of that part, but
so
I
how is this
certainly.
how is this going to work? Am I going to interview you all because you're part of that, right?
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to like figure that out. But I certainly could answer a few questions, but I could ask some as well. So
Yeah, I can ask you what's the most difficult part of doing this.
yes, that could be a whole episode. And I am glad you said that because our guest today, Jared Cohn, he is a filmmaker and also he's written a book about 50 mistakes that he made that he learned from. And in writing this book, his hope, I think, is that it will save filmmakers that are beginning the process from making those same mistakes. So
So this is 50 mistakes he's made while making films,
yes,
or the whole process.
I think it's just with the filmmaking process, but we're going to talk to him about the book and see how in depth it goes beyond, if it does go beyond filmmaking. Um, so, if you were to ask me like the difficult parts, perhaps in telling my experience with that, it could save someone else some problems. And also, if someone had written a book and I had read it before I started the process, it could have saved me some problems. So,
Okay. Well, I assume that you're running into some issues with putting the dinner theater thing together. I mean,
anytime I feel like that you're dealing with people,
mm-hmm.
people are people are very different, and you know, it people sometimes will
Yeah.
yeah,
Understood.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, there's scheduling, there's so many things that you never think about. Like, it's almost like those things you see that, like, they say this will be fun, and then it shows you like what's the reality of it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of that, in my mind, like, what could be more fun than starting a theater group and, writing plays and putting
Yeah.
that all together again. Um, but it's like when you have a child, and then like you forget all the pain of that and you have another one because because they're so cute, and
Right.
you
Yeah.
you forget the diapers and the no
Sure.
sleep. And
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, and by the way, happy Father's Day as well.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Double whammy today. I mean. That,
Yeah, and isn't that a great way to throw it in right there, with all like the bad things I just said about?
yeah. Having kids. Yeah. You're.
Forget all that, you great dads out there, and
Yeah.
I know that's the one. So,
A ringing
yeah.
endorsement.
Well, I do think, writing a book about experiences that you've had, do you feel like that could save someone from, or,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, if it, yeah. I mean, we've written a book, and it's not out yet. But someday, I mean, I keep threatening that I'll finish it and put it out. But anytime you can write something and it helps someone out, it's a good thing. I mean, it may not like the things in it may not apply to all people, but I mean, if it helps just one person, then it was worth it. So,
well, so that should be a good motivation to get Unstoppable, you know, out there to the people, because
yes, the people need to hear these things for sure.
a lot of good lessons in there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they were good ones for me, for sure.
Well, and I learned a lot in the process of, working with you
Yeah.
on that. So I feel like even though we haven't made a film, that there's going to be some lessons that we can learn that maybe apply in some other realm of life.
Yeah, I mean, it could certainly apply to pretty much anything, just like making a podcast or writing a book or putting on a dinner theater. I mean, I'm sure there's certain parallels between all of those things.
Yeah, I think so too. And, so we all share this big human experience, and anything we can do to especially use our skills to make it easier, I think that's a great thing. And I look forward to hearing like all the things that, I can apply after we speak with him.
Alrighty, well, let's listen to Jared or let's talk with Jared and see what he has to say.
Sounds good. Jared, I want to welcome you to Backstory Sessions today. We're really excited to have you as our guest.
Thank, thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, your backstory, let's just approach it for a second like a film. If we were making a film of your life, where does your film begin?
I would probably say, I would start it at sort of like in the tail end of my acting, pursuit. I came out here, like 18, 19 years old with just stars in my eyes and, did a bunch of sort of low budget. So, some lead roles, some good movies, some cool stuff. but just sort of flamed out as an actor. And then, but during that process, started writing and getting more into directing, and then actually went to film school, and then sort of started directing and made that transition from acting to filmmaking. That's sort of where I would begin, and that's sort of that's all in the book. So a lot of actors could probably read this book and relate. But yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of filmmakers started as actors. So yeah, that's kind of my beginning.
Okay, and so who would be some of the major characters in this film of your backstory?
Oh man, probably David Latt, who's one of the partners at the asylum. Sharknado. He he casted me in movies as an actor, and throughout, and then when I started writing scripts, I sent the asylum my first scripts, and they sort of produced the first real movie I directed was the asylum state. So I've known David Latt forever, and there's a lot. He wrote the foreword in the book, and he would definitely be a pivotal character, because he saw me as an actor. He saw me, and actually, when I did that movie, I had they were like, oh, we like the script. Do you want to play the lead or do you want to direct? So at the time, that was a very tough decision for me. I was still very much wanting to be an actor, but ultimately, made the right decision to direct.
So it sounds like the acting versus directing would be one of the conflicts that would be in your backstory film. Um, what are some other conflicts?
I mean, a lot of it is sort of how to get work. I mean, a lot of it is the how to deal with the downtimes, and how do you get you start writing these scripts, and how do you actually get these scripts into the right hands of producers. You're driving around town, dropping off scripts, sending emails, entering contests, entering pitch fests, reaching out to filmmakers and producers, and really sort of, and what that actually looks like and entails. Like, because I did all that stuff, and there's some things that I would do again, and there's some things that were a total waste of time. So I a lot more goes more in detail, but like the pitch fest was a great thing. Met a lot of good people at this pitch fest, where you get 5 minutes, like speed dating for screenwriters. You get 5 minutes, you pitch them, and some of those people I'm still in contact with today. But a lot, yeah, consistent, persistence.
So would you say then that your backstory film that we're making here has a happy ending? Because it looks like from the title of your book that 50 movies made, lessons learned on a filmmaker's journey. So 50 movies, I mean, that's pretty impressive. But how do you view your ending of the backstory?
Great question. And at the end, I sort of ended on like a note that, although I've done this, like I'm still very much in the trenches. I'm in the, I'm very much, in the grind, doing, going after it. That like it doesn't end. For me, it's far from over. And this is, different from the end of the career book, where it's like, all right, I did this, and I'm retiring, but I'm it's not, I'm very much giving advice from something the principles that are still applicable, which I think is good. Because you read some of the older books about filmmaking in the industry, and they're just out of touch. They're talking about things that, and this book will be out. In 10, 15 years, people read this book, and they'll be like, all right, there's some things probably take away, but a lot changes. So, hopefully this is the book of this moment that encapsulates what's going on right now, because it's a special time right now for filmmakers. Very special time.
Sure. So it sounds like a sequel would be coming to this backstory film.
Maybe, yeah. Well, yeah. We'll see how this book does. If there's any interest in a sequel, then I'll entertain that possibly.
All right, so let's talk some about the 50 movies that you've made. So tell us a few of those, and have you had a favorite? Let's start with that.
I did these two very cool movies with Bruce Willis, Deadlock and Vendetta, and Vendetta also had Mike Tyson in it, and those movies, those are just real. It was just great to work with, just super celebrity, famous actors, and they're very cool movies. But I also did a movie about Leonard Skinner, and that movie, I did a Leonard Skinner movie, and that movie has more meaning, than the sort of, just the action shoot 'em ups, because that was a true story, about a real guy, real story based on, Artimus Pyle, the original drummer of the band, and him and I kind of, he helped out with, putting the story together, and that movie has more meaning. So I would say that movie is the most meaningful movie I've done.
Wow. Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I had no idea. But in our backstory of this episode, we interviewed Artemis Pyle, and it was about that very movie. In fact, I've seen that movie, so it was done very well and quite interesting. So that is so cool that we have that connection.
That's great. Yeah, Artemis, I love Artemis. She's awesome. And that's great. Yeah, I mean, fantastic. Shout out to Artemis. And what a great guy.
Yeah, and a great movie. To your credit, that is it was put together very well, and I enjoyed that, and a lot of listeners did as well. What is it about filmmaking to you that, I know you said you loved acting, or that was your first journey, but what is it about filmmaking that's kind of won you over?
I love having more of the overall creative space. So I mean, certainly, when you're an actor, very important job, especially if you're the lead role. But ultimately, you're just acting, you're playing that role, and making a movie. I mean, there's so many parts and moving parts to making a movie, and movie crew, and all the actors. But the director, has I would say more creative say. So of course the producers ultimately have the the yes or no power, because if it costs, especially if something it costs more money than budgeted for. But just being a director, you have more creative input, and that, to me, that's fun. That's the fun part, is having the creative input, because then you can sort of you're making more decisions. It's a lot harder because you're making a lot more decisions, but it's satisfying, creatively satisfying.
Yeah, I can imagine that it would be. And so, to all the people listening that, maybe want to make a film, and I think a lot of people at some point in time in their life have thought, like, okay, I'd like to make a movie. What would be, from your experience, like the rookie mistake?
Oh man, well, that's a tough one because there's so many things you don't know, and going into it. I've made so many mistakes. The main thing, I'll say this, the main thing is people. You want to make a movie, so you find you're gonna connect with somebody. You're gonna need to connect with somebody that has more experience, and that person is sort of like the mechanic at your shop, because they're gonna say you need this, and the other thing. Your car's broken. You don't know anything, so you're sort of at the mercy of whatever person you decide to trust with your artistic endeavor, and that may be the only person you know in the industry. That's usually how it is. It's somebody wants to make a movie, and they're connected to this guy for that guy, and this guy like makes movies, and maybe they look him up and he has some credits, blah blah blah, and checks out a little bit, but you try, you start. What happens is money starts flowing, and maybe overspend. Maybe this person takes advantage, and just because you don't know, and to really trust, I think trusting the right people, and it's very difficult because you just don't know anyone. There's so many people that have to do right by you. From the people you team up with to the distributors to all that. Like everybody has to, and usually there's gonna be at least one bad apple along the way. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
you can make a great movie. You don't overspend. The producers don't take advantage of the first time filmmaker, and that, but the distributor, you do a terrible deal and you don't make any money. Like I've heard that story a million times. So you just got to be careful who you get in bed with. Like it really
Right.
comes down to that. You know what I mean? Like it's like make sure the people you're in bed with, so to speak, are out. Don't have bad intentions.
Well, so do you have to live in California? Do you have to move to California if you're going to make a success of this, or is it possible to be a filmmaker any place?
Now that is a great question because I was actually thinking about leaving LA. I've been here 20 years. I've been here 20 years, and I'm like, I don't, certainly I don't think I'd live here if the industry wasn't here. Certainly not. But I'm like, do I need to stay here? Do I? And ultimately, it came down to, I came out here. A long, long time ago. '02 or whatever, and uh, I don't feel like good enough to leave yet. Like I know a lot of people would come and go, and yes, the answer is you can absolutely become a filmmaker anywhere in the world. You make a great film, you submit it to Sundance, and it gets in, and it can still become, that could still happen. But for me personally, like I just want, I came out here with some, pretty lofty goals, like probably loftier than they should have been, and that was just led to some disappointments. But nonetheless, like there's still things I want to accomplish in LA, and I probably could leave and maybe could still work at the same level, but I'm not even gonna risk it. I'm just gonna stay here, hunker down, you know, because all the meetings are here, all the big companies are here. Like regardless of there's more, productions in Atlanta or Oklahoma or whatever, blah 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 blah. All the entertainment companies are still here in LA.
Okay. Well, Matt, what do you think? I mean, I had no idea we had a connection here and backstories, but do you have a question?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I was just curious, like, so how different did you find writing a book as opposed to a screenplay?
That's a great question. Yeah, it was a lot more, a lot longer and more intense than I thought it was. Like usually, I can crank out a script pretty fast,
Hmm.
like a pretty decent. For like if I and many times I've had to crank out a first draft in a couple weeks. Uh, that was not the case for the book. Like the book I wrote and I didn't really have much narrative structure. I originally designed each chapter as a movie. I directed 50 movies, so I was like, all right, well, just write, each chapter is a movie, and that seems to be the most logical thing. So that was the original structure, and I wrote this monster of a book. It was just, yeah. I was like, wow, this thing is, it's 900 pages. It's terrible. But it was a good starting point because then I got with an editor and really smart guy, and he just said, he went through revision after we were supposed to do just like one or two revisions. We went doing like three or four, like
Hmm.
completely different revisions, and throughout that process, the voice of the book sort of came to life.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, a good editor. You need a good editor. Yeah, you needed. I needed that good editor. So and also, you know, my writing style was, and it's still in there. Like you'll read it like some sentences are pretty short and written. It's written. I'm not a. It's not a poetic. I'm certainly
Yeah.
not a poetic type writer. I write like very much like I speak,
Hmm.
and I kind of write like a screenwriter would write. If you imagine a screenwriter writing a book, like it has that. Which it's kind of funny because it's a book about movie making. So it worked out, thankfully.
What was the most difficult part of writing the book for you?
Man, just the process of like of
The rewrites
of
and things,
of
and
rewrite. Yeah, like rewrite after rewrite after rewrite. I remember working with my editor, and we had went through it, and it got to the point where I was like, the book was so long that just to go over, like, all right, just to start from page one and go to the end would be like a 2-3 week
yeah.
process. And so it was just like a game. Like I would do it, and then I would do it a couple times, and then by the end, I was so sick of the book, and I told you I was like, let's just finish this up, like. And he's like, no, no, just like he's like, come on, just hang with me. We're getting there. It's gonna be better. It'll all be worth it. Like, and that was the hardest part of like being like, oh my god, like, and then notes after notes, and like his notes made the book. It gave it direction and it gave
Yeah.
it a narrative structure. Like it was kind of all over the place. The first draft was kind of all over the place,
Hmm.
and now it actually reads like a cohesive cohesive book. So I without shamelessly say I used a great editor. Shout out Jesse Winter, uh, Duo Storytelling, is their company. Jesse, who edited the book.
Cool. Did you? Oh God. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Um, did you find the promotion of the book harder than promoting a movie?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I approached it. Okay. The problem was I approached it. And before Clint reached out to you guys, I reached out to some other publicists, like some book publicists, and they, man, they just it was a bad experience,
Yeah.
and out of touch, trying to do this, trying to, just not understanding. So then, thank God I got a hold of Clint, and Clint, and his team actually know what they're doing. And so PR, you just got to really have
Yeah.
Yeah.
a good team because you know these first days the ball was fumbled, and just thankfully Clint was able to help me out at the 11th hour.
Mm-hmm. All right, Kat. We got a few minutes left. You got a couple.
Okay. I have two questions. I'm gonna, take all the other ones away and leave these two.
Okay.
Okay.
So I guess the one thing I like to know for listeners, what do you think are the three lessons that you've learned that would be the most beneficial to the listeners who are interested in filmmaking? So, what advice that you've learned from your mistakes?
I would say, I mean, it's better to do more, throw more stuff up out there than it is to hold on to some, like let's say you're writing a script, developing a project, just waiting till it's absolutely perfect to pitch. My suggestion is put it something nice together, get it out there, and then get to work on something else, and get it again, and then do that, rewrite it, and then get it, because you never know. The thing that you may think is great may not be the thing that's gonna pop. Maybe your second thing, your third thing, and you'll get better. So it's a process. You gotta trust the process, put in the work. There's no shortcuts. There's absolutely no shortcuts. You can't skip it. Like you can't skip great. And if you do, that's good for you. There's some people that are 18, they go to AFI, do a short film, win Sundance, and next thing they're offered a major studio film by Universal. Not my case, not the case for a lot of other independent filmmakers. So just the main takeaway is just keep going, make that short, shoot that music video, buy that camera, and shoot something with it. Put it on YouTube. And maybe something goes viral. Maybe something sees it. At least you have stuff to show.
Okay. And what kind of camera would you suggest?
Oh, that's a good question. I would get a red. I mean, look, I would get a red camera, Eddie make. Come up. You get a used red Scarlet Weapon for $2,500. That's an old red camera, but the image is still absolutely gorgeous. So it's still 4K. So Eddie red camera with Eddie decent lenses out there, and you can get $100 Nikon lens, a Nikkor old photograph lens, and put it on a red camera, and it'll just be beautiful. That's all you. Yeah, we're in a good time for filmmakers.
Awesome. All right. Well, here's going to be my last question, unfortunately, because you're very interesting to talk to. But if you could go back in time and not make any of the mistakes that you've written about in the book, do you think that you would be a better filmmaker, or have they shaped you into the filmmaker that you are now?
Definitely the mistakes shaped me. Yeah, I mean the only probably thing I would do differently is I would have actually went way back to graduating high school, looking at colleges, and I would have went to film school. Because when I went to Northeastern University to study, communication arts for like a year and a half, 2 years before I realized I want to make. I should have. I would have. That was a waste of time. I should have just went from high school to film school, but I was still into the act. So maybe should have went from whatever. I would have redone. I would have cut out those 2 years of my life that I was just kind of lost and it was aimless. Because the sooner, look, honestly, the sooner you get going, it's a long journey. The sooner you get started, it's just better, you know.
Awesome. Well, it's been so great to have you as a guest, and I hope you'll come back again and tell us so we can learn more about filmmaking. This is really interesting.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, the book, 50 Movies Made on Amazon. Check it out.
That's right. We'll be posting a link and sharing that with the episode. So thank you again for being our guest.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care, Jared. Thank you again.
Thank you.
As always, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, you can send those to Kat at iWritePlays@outlook.com, or you can write to me at backstorysessions@gmail.com or matt@level11ventures.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.